It's time for the Spoony One! Wrestling Show! It's time for the Spoony One! Wrestling Show!
I'm trying to get back on schedule because, well, this has been probably the worst year health-wise I've ever had. And people saying it seems like you're sick all the time. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I mean, this year I've never been this sick as often as I have this time around, but this year has been bad. I broke my foot. I got sick. I had a problem with ingrown toenails on both feet. I had to get that taken care of. Been in and out of doctor's offices all year. The heart thing that I've been dealing with has wiped me out for just about a total of 2 months. Like, just solid knocked out 2 months. And so, there's been some complaining, I know. I've been trying my best. I've been trying really hard, and what's kind of been holding me up lately is headaches. I get such bad headaches. If you get really bad headaches, you probably understand. If you don't, then there's no way to tell you. But I get really bad migraines. I get them so bad. And I tend to get them once every 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And when I get them, I'm out for the day. It's a headache so bad. Like I said, if you've ever had one, you don't even know. When I get a migraine, I can't talk. I can't hardly think. My eyes get so sensitive to light, I can't look at anything. I like the LEDs. I always say the LEDs in my alarm clock, the numbers, I can't look at those. I can't even look at them through closed eyes. That's how sensitive my eyes get in migraines, and I've been having them just about weekly. And it's been bad, and so I've been trying to get some prescriptions, and the prescription was really expensive, and that kind of pissed me off for a while. So lately, I've been really tired and pissed off, and it's put me in a good mood for writing, and I've actually gotten a lot of writing done. You can actually see the script for Highlander, the Source. Sorry, Highlander, the Source, which I just wrote. I'll probably try to shoot that tomorrow if I'm feeling up to it. That's a big if, because lately the headache I've been having hasn't gone away, and it's been kind of not a migraine, but it's been a bad headache. And it starts off, it's been like this pressure behind my left eye, not just one eye, like right here. And I can feel it, like, it's not a tumor, but it's like a sinus headache. I'm guessing that's what it is. And so I'm guessing it's a sinus infection. And that's kind of, it's probably a good guess, because I think I'm coming down with a cold. So my throat's starting to get a little raw, and yeah, so this happens all before I set up, and so got a lot of work to do. I got a lot of crossover videos to shoot. I've been doing that a lot, and I got some trips coming up. So, but anyway, Impact. This will probably be a pretty long video, and I'm going to talk about Impact, and it's actually really hard, because there's been a lot that's happened on Impact, a whole lot, and I've seen it. I've seen most of it, but the reason, and this is the main reason I haven't reviewed Impact lately, is because I like to take pretty extensive notes on Impact, and my PVR, in a fit of sanity trying to save me, for some reason just went and erased. Like, the day after I watched Impact, it would erase everything, so I couldn't take notes on it. And I know you can watch them online, but my PVR did me a favor for a reason, and so I was lazy and I was sick, so whatever. But I watched this week's Impact, and I'm going to have to do a lot of backtracking to explain everything that went on, to explain what's going on, and how it doesn't make sense, because it so doesn't. And for those of you, I know a lot of you don't watch Impact, but you watch my show because you like how pissed off it makes me. But now, see, that's why I got to explain it. Because for those of you who haven't watched Impact, I start telling you this stuff, and you're like, well, what? I don't get it. Well, there's not much to get, really, but I'll explain it anyway. But in advance, my throat is kind of sore right now, so I might have to pause the video every once in a while to take a drink, or just kind of clear my nose, and so I'm trying to hold it together right now, but I'm not in the best of health right now, and so I'm really trying to just keep my composure. So, okay, here we go. And the first thing that happens is Ric Flair comes out, and he says that Matt Morgan was complaining about the officiating at, what was it, Turning Point? I don't remember. I think it was Turning Point. So right away, I got to explain what the fuck happened at Turning Point. I did see it. Must have been one of the only people alive who saw it. But what happened was, it was Matt Morgan versus Jeff Hardy for his new Fantastic Divas Championship. And I don't know if you've seen this. I posted a picture of it on the website, but Jeff Hardy's got this brand new spanking title belt that looks like the creature from the Black Lagoon, the Gill Man. It's like a cross between that and the Divas belt, the purple butterfly Divas belt. But if you replace the butterfly with the creature from the Black Lagoon, that's what it looks like. It is horrible. It is a god-awful belt, and I shudder to think of how much money they blew on that fucking thing. But, so, they have this match, and Matt Morgan pretty much has it won. I believe he drops him with a choke slam. Matt Morgan drops Jeff with a choke slam, and he goes for the cover. And it's hard to explain, unless you've seen it, what happened. Because it was such a fucked up moment. It was kind of hard to tell whether or not they actually did fuck up and they were just trying to cover it up, or what happened. And so it's kind of hard to do without help. But let's say, how to do this? I could just lay down on the ground. Let's say you're the referee. Like, the camera right here is the referee. And I'm just going to very crudely kind of do this thing where, like, I'm Jeff Hardy and I'm laying down and my feet are towards you, okay? This is me, okay? So, Matt Morgan makes the cover, and Jeff, the ref's going, 1, 2, and at 2, Jeff's foot kind of comes up like he's kicking out. So he goes, 1, 2, and his foot comes up and kind of like drapes across the referee. He's like, 1, 2, and the ref stops counting. And I think everyone in the world was like, wait, what? Because what the fuck was that? So a couple of thoughts spring to mind. Like, okay, this is the kind of thing, it's the kind of motion that happens when a guy goes for a rope break. If you don't know, when a guy puts his foot on the ropes when he's being pinned, they have to break the pin cover because it's a rope break. So at first, this is the same kind of thing you do like when you're trying to put your foot on the rope. So it's like 1, 2, foot on the rope, right? It's that exact same kind of thing, but the rope, nowhere near it. He puts his leg on the referee. And I think I called it the Phantom Kickout. Someone else on Twitter called it the little-known TNA ref break. If you put your foot on the ref, he has to break the count. But he just does. He puts his foot on the ref, and the ref kind of goes, fucking what? 2. I want to make this clear. Jeff, in no way, and they never even attempted to tell you this, he in no way kicked out. He kind of lazily put his leg up. He just kind of moved his leg. And that was it. The announcers never claimed he kicked out. They never said... In fact, they were as confused as anybody. They're like, wait, what happened? What? And again, this is what I was saying. Like, were they trying to imply that he kicked the referee? Because I could see that, maybe. Like, Jeff kicked out his leg and kicked the referee. But that didn't happen. You know, it was just this lazy move of the leg, and he just kind of went, stop it, you know. And so the announcers were saying, like, well, the ref was out of position, because normally when the ref makes the count, he's behind. He's back here where he can see the shoulders, okay? And so they're like, oh, well, the ref was out of position, and so he saw the leg move, but he thought it was a kick out. Nobody bought it. And how pissed would you have been if that was the finish of your pay-per-view? You know, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. When you pay money, when you have a pay-per-view main event, you want a finish that's decisive, more often than not. Because you don't want to fuck your customers. You don't want to fuck the people who paid money. You want to reward them for their trust. You know, you don't want to reward them with a fucked up finish, some screwjob disqualification. That's why you never finish pay-per-view matches on disqualifications more often than not. Because they can watch TV for that. They don't have to pay money for the DQs. They pay money because they want to see a winner. Now, that's not to say the guy can cheat. The guy can't cheat, but there has to be some decisive victory going on here. This thing with the kick out, there's no explanation for that. And so, you know, you've got people who paid, I can't even remember what I paid for Turning Point. What is it? Probably $45 for HD? I'll get it on the fucking bill, I'll tell you that for free. But that's, so if you paid for that and you see this fucked up, confusing finish that it's so bad you can't even tell if it was intentional or not, you're like, what the fuck was that? You're not gonna pay again. So this is yet another problem TNA has with its booking, is that you may get someone to buy their pay-per-views. That's unlikely, but you might. But as soon as they've paid that money, you make them instantly regret it. You know, like, why do I pay that much money for that? And honestly, I'm not saying like WWE's any better lately, because I just watched Raw, and Raw gave away, what was it, two matches that they showed on Survivor Series for free on TV the next day. So how stupid do you feel for paying for Survivor Series when you got the main events, basically, you know, Wade Barrett and Randy Orton, and I can't even remember the other one. Daniel Bryan versus Ted DiBiase for free the next day. Why would you pay? I don't know. That's why you don't do that. Because my dad even, you know, when my dad would watch wrestling, and every week, whenever there was or every pay-per-view when there was a main event, he'd be like, well, you know, they're just going to do this again tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, probably. They got to stop doing that. But, this tangent. I'm not doing Raw, but I still watch Raw. This is spoilers, when The Miz won the title, they cut to this, I think it's probably a girl, this long-haired kid in the audience. Like, it was like Koya Naskatsi. When Miz is holding the belt up, he's so happy, and they got this kid who's like, it was so picture of the year. Okay, but anyway, so now that you know what happened with the ref, okay, the phantom kickout, the ref break, I'll go back and I'll start over. Ric Flair comes out and he says that Matt Morgan was complaining about the officiating. Okay. That's not what happened at all. Because last week, in the Impact I didn't cover, they addressed this issue. Okay? What happens is, last week, Eric Bischoff has the referee from the match. And he's berating the guy. He's like, what kind of idiot are you? Like, how could you screw that up? What the hell are you thinking? Like, you gotta be in position. You almost screwed everything up. And I remind you, Eric Bischoff is berating the referee for screwing up the count when that screwed up count was the only thing that saved Jeff Hardy's title. I still don't know if that thing was fucked up or they're just covering it up. Like, it was such a fucked up spot, they're like, why don't we just use it and say it's a corrupt ref? By the way, did a little research, did a little reading on forums and stuff like that, and apparently this will probably come up in Storyline 2 like it's some big shocker. Like, they're doing this whole Machiavellian Immortals storyline, so Eric Bischoff's like this genius. I just know they're going to do this. But the referee that Eric Bischoff is chewing out is Eric's son. I just know they're going to come up with this. Anyway, so he's berating this referee. He's like, you fucked up. What are you doing? You screwed it up. You almost screwed everything up for Jeff. He saves Jeff's title, but whatever. So Matt Morgan comes in and he's like, Eric, the kid made a mistake. And Eric's like, are you kidding me? And Matt Morgan, the guy who was screwed by this decision, the referee, cost him the title. Matt Morgan completely forgives him. He's like, look, the kid made a mistake. Everyone does it. It was just a match. And to prove it, for my number one contenders match, I want him to be the referee. And Eric's like, if you're cool with it, all right. And so the ref, he refs the match. He counts 1, 2, 3 for Morgan. In no way screws him. The storyline is in no way followed up on. In essence, the whole thing's a complete waste of time. Because you were expecting, I was expecting anyway, in the Vince Russo era of booking, that now that Matt Morgan has put his trust in this referee, the ref would screw him, and Eric would come out, that's my son, don't you know anything? And so, but no! Matt Morgan wins. And so, okay. Once again, back to present day. Flair's complaining. Flair says that Morgan was complaining about the officiating. No, he really wasn't. At all. In fact, he was the only one cool with it. So, okay, he says, so Matt Morgan lost, Matt Morgan quit Immortal. And so, Flair's going on this tirade. He says, when we crossed each other in the halls, you used to say, "What's up, Nate?" And he says, "You can't call me Nate anymore. The Nate privilege has been revoked." Damn. That's cold. The Nate privilege. You can't call him Nate. So, he says that I don't really know what happens here. Because Flair's awesome. Okay? I'm not saying Flair's not awesome. But when Flair starts to ramble, he kind of goes insane. So, sometimes I don't even think he knows what he's talking about sometimes, but he says it with such passion. It gets you fired up. So, I don't really know what he says here, but he says something like, at first he says he's going to be the special referee for Morgan's rematch with Jeff. But he's going to wrestle Flair tonight. And he gets the title shot if he wins. Or if he wins, he gets to choose I don't know. There's something to do with Flair being the special referee unless he won tonight. Kind of confused. I didn't care to watch it. I didn't care enough to rewind it, ironically. So Morgan comes out. He says he's cool with that. He says wrestling Flair is number one on his bucket list. And Flair kind of goes crazy. He really does. He's like, oh, bucket list. Oh, bucket. So, Flair takes the jacket off because shit's getting real now. He's like, oh, I got your bucket list right here. And so he does an elbow drop. But Flair says, you're looking at the guy who slept with Zenyatta last night. That's right. Because that's what it takes to get me going. Woo! You're looking at the guy who slept with Zenyatta last night. Because that's what it takes to get the Nature Boy going. Did Ric Flair just admit to fucking a horse? Woo! Woo! I could quit right there. Because I can promise you, ain't nothing gonna top that. And already, 100 bonus points to the first person who Rule 34 is that bitch. Oh, yeah. Where did he get that? Generation Me and Robbie E versus the Motor City... Oh, I'm sorry. No. I left somebody out. Generation Me and Robbie E and Cookie versus the Motor City Machine Guns and Jay Lethal and Velvet Sky. Okay. Now, to give you a little bit of the history of this one, Robbie E won the X Division Championship from Jay Lethal. I hate the Jersey Shore gimmick, but whatever. Personal preference. The real history here is last week, Cookie and Velvet Sky had a match. It was one of the worst matches of all time. If you didn't see it, you are very fortunate. And I will not recap it here. Suffice to say, Botchamania 154. Velvet Sky versus Cookie. Woo! My only notes are that the babyfaces are the ones who immediately start off cheating, triple teaming, and standing on people's balls. Sabin gets hairspray in the eyes and pinned. I found it really funny the babyfaces were the ones just openly start cheating. And of course there's no disqualifications in TNA at all. So backstage, the Motor City Machine Guns are furious. They've lost. And they challenge Generation Me to an empty arena match on Reaction. Why? For what purpose? It feels like I'm repeating myself endlessly. Maybe. I know why. I know why they're doing this. The reason why is they really want you to tune into Reaction. Okay. That's why. And I did. But in terms of story, we're telling a story. Okay? Whenever you're booking a gimmick match, a match with a special stipulation, this isn't hard. You have to answer the question, why? It has to make sense. There are reasons to book an empty arena match. Not many, but they do exist. Okay? For instance, let's do something simple. A street fight. Why do you do a street fight? Well, it's because you don't want there to be any disqualifications, you don't want the heel to weasel out with a DQ, or this is a feud that has progressed to the point where neither man can be trusted to obey the rules. They are fighting, they're not even respecting any rules, there's no honor in it, they're just going to fight, so you're just going to let them fight, that's it. Okay, that's a street fight. It's fair enough. Most of the time you can justify a street fight, unless you're Jay Lethal and Robbie E., in which case your first match of the feud is a street fight. Makes no sense. Okay. A lumberjack match. This is even harder to do. Because really the reason you do a lumberjack match is because someone keeps getting counted out. Okay? So the reason you put lumberjacks around the ring is so they throw the person back in the ring and that person can't be counted out. That's why. And oftentimes even WWE is probably the guiltiest party of all when it comes. They always do lumberjack matches. You know, they're always lame. That's the reason why you do them. So empty arena match. Explain to me why the Motor City Machine Guns want Generation Me in an empty arena match. There's no reason why. Here's why you do it. And it's only happened a few times. And the one I'm thinking of right now is the Super Bowl halftime special where The Rock and Mankind had an empty arena brawl. It was terrible. And it was, in fact, one where Mick Foley tried to pin him with a forklift. Oh yeah, watch it. But the reason you do it is because this is a feud so heated, so violent, so nuclear in scale that people are getting hurt. These are fights, like, you do this when street fights are not enough to contain them. Like, they're fighting in the crowd, people are getting hurt. They're fighting and referees are getting hurt. So the reason you do empty arena is you clear everyone out except the people who are fighting because someone is going to get hurt. That's why. But these guys don't hate each other nearly that much. They haven't been in nearly... There's no reason for it. And I'm going to get... Well, let me see if we can skip it. No. I'll get to that in a second. You know what? I'll just talk about it now. The second thing that pissed me off about this, because this is Vince Russo, is we had a casket match tonight. This fucking casket match. Okay. Again. There's no reason. This is between the Pope and Abyss. Okay? There's no reason they should ever have a casket match. In fact, Pope is the one who brought it up. Why? I don't know. He bought a casket. He brought it to the Impact Zone. And he's like, we're going to have a casket match, Daddy. All right. You know, why not is not a good enough answer to the question, why? It doesn't make any sense. In fact, casket matches are probably the hardest. You can never have a casket match. There's no reason for it. The only reason you ever have for it is if one of the people in the match happens to be The Undertaker. That's it. Why? Because The Undertaker's gimmick is that he puts people in graves. He puts people in he kills people. That's The Undertaker's gimmick. He's a dead man. That's it. The only reason you have a buried alive match is because one of the guys is The Undertaker. The only reason you have an Inferno match is because one of the guys is Kane. Because that's his whole thing. It was his whole thing that he's burned. He was burned. He got better. So, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I feel the need to talk about this. So, for no reason, the Pope and Abyss are having a casket match later. Tonight, Abyss is having a casket match. TNA bought a second casket to have this match with Shannon Moore. Again, why? And I'm not even talking about casket match anymore. Like, Abyss has nothing to do with caskets. Abyss has nothing to do with graves. Abyss is a crazy motherfucker in a mask who had a magic ring. It has nothing to do with casket. Okay. Shannon Moore has nothing to do with Abyss. But he's in a casket match. So, Abyss actually has this match pretty much lost. He's losing this casket match to Shannon Moore. Raising the question, what hope he thinks he has against the Pope. Whatever. So, when I just about quit forever. If you don't know, the rules of a casket match are you win when you put another person in the coffin and close the lid. That's the only way, I repeat, the only way a casket match can end. That's kind of the point. There's no pinfalls, there's no submissions. You throw a guy in a casket, you close the lid, and it used to be, back in the day, that putting someone in a casket was dangerous. You remember back in the day when, I think it was Ultimate Warrior. Might have been. This happened to several people, actually, but when a person got sealed in a casket, they suffocated. And so I remember several times there were angles in which people were sealed into caskets and they were out of action for weeks because the trauma of being put in a casket was such that they suffocated and were comatose. It was that bad. But, Pope's been thrown in a casket, beaten with a stick. The casket's been shoved off a stage and shit like that. It doesn't matter. Pope's been fine. So, Abyss is about to throw Shannon Moore in the casket. He opens the casket up. And the Pope's inside. Pope pops out, he leaps up on the apron, and he starts to punch Abyss. And Abyss is like, no, the Pope, shit. And the referee looks at Pope, looks at Abyss getting his ass kicked, and goes, ring the bell! This match ended in a disqualification. A casket match ended in a disqualification. I've seen them do shit like this before, where the ref just runs. they call it a no contest. You know, and even that is bullshit enough. Like, if they just said, well, because I've complained on numerous occasions where they've had matches like that where, I think it was they've done stretcher matches where nobody got stretchered out, or they've done last man standing matches where it broke down into a brawl and they just left the arena. They've done over the top rope battle royals where one person was never thrown out of the match, but the match ended anyway. And they just kind of call it a no contest. They're like, that fucked up, it's over. So, but the casket match ended in a DQ. The one time in TNA there is a DQ. It's a casket match. I've seen these guys get away with such heinous bullshit in regular matches that did not result in a DQ. I've seen blatant interference all over world title matches. No DQ. But this casket match, that got out of hand. Pope popped out of there, and the ref was like, that's fucking enough. Shannon Moore is disqualified. No, that's just... I can't have this. I can't have this lawlessness in my casket match. No, sir. Okay, back in time. Jeff Jarrett's backstage, and he says that he's going to have the Double J, Double MA exhibition. This is the part I missed from last week, because it was early on, I think, and I missed it. But I read what happened, and apparently last week, or maybe the week before, I think it was last week, Samoa Joe comes out and challenges Jeff Jarrett to a shoot. And I still don't know what that means. I know what they think it means. A shoot. In wrestling parlance, shoot means real. Real talk. You know, if I'm shooting on you, I'm talking to you real. Straight shooting. And that's pretty much what TNA is all about. Like, all Hulk Hogan ever does anymore is he shoots. Because he's talking out of character, you know. So he he wants him to shoot, which implies that what's happening in TNA rings is not a shoot. So he's saying the wrestling matches we've been having up to this point aren't real. Okay. So this week, Jeff Jarrett, he starts slapping Jeremy Borash around, and Borash is like a puppy now. He's like, I didn't know this, but Borash is like, Jeff Jarrett's like, why don't you get out of here and announce me, slap nuts? Boom, and he slaps Borash, and Borash is like, oh, what happened to you, Jeff? And Jeff's like, what are you talking about, slap nuts, boom, and he like, Bora's like, oh, you hit me. Why? And he's like, what are you talking about, used to be friends? Yeah, screw that, I'm Jeff Jarrett, slap nuts, boom, and he's like Borash, he's like, he runs off, and so they have the Jeff Jarrett MMA challenge, and so Jeff comes out in like mixed martial arts shorts and wearing the 4-ounce gloves, and he's got like 6 dudes with him, okay? And the crowd immediately shits all over this. Like, they, like, as soon as he comes out doing this MMA shit, they're like, boring! And you know what? I didn't hate this. They never said the word shoot. Like, the word shoot was the stick. Like, if Samoa Joe came out and said, I want to challenge you to a mixed martial arts match, I'd have been like, weird, but okay, because isn't that what you kind of do already? Like, isn't professional wrestling, like, hell, you can get away with more in professional wrestling than you can with mixed martial arts. Like, you can stomp, you can kick down opponents, you can kick down opponents, you can use the pointy or elbow to hit, like, you can do like 12-6 elbows, you can do all sorts of stuff in pro wrestling. Like, you can hit people with chairs and guitars, but apparently Samoa Joe wants a more structured rule set with a 10-point must system. 3 rounds, 5 minutes. He wants this. So he brings these guys out, and Jeff Jarrett starts to he starts to demonstrate all his great MMA holds. So he does the Japanese knee bar, the Juji Gatami arm bar. He does the rear naked choke. He does the ankle lock, and so I kind of like. They were making him. They were actually building towards a match. There was a reason for it. Jeff Jarrett acted like a douche. He came across as a chicken shit who was beating up on weaker guys. He came across like, you couldn't wait to see Joe kill this guy. And in fact, the crowd was chanting, "Joe's gonna kill you." I kind of liked it. I will applaud them simply for telling a straightforward wrestling angle. Where the guy keeps weaseling out of matches. He starts, he's been cheating to win. The guy's fed up with it. He challenges him to a one-on-one, man-to-man fight with rules. And the guy's like, I can do mixed martial arts. I'm going to show you. So he's doing that. They're building towards a match. It makes sense. It's okay. So what I didn't get about this one was the whole time, Jeff Jarrett, he starts off with the Juji Gatami armbar. So he puts the guy in the armbar, and the guy's like, Jeff's like, tap out when the pressure's too bad, and he cranks back on the arm, and the guy's like, ah! And he taps, and Jeff Jarrett keeps cranking on it. He's like, ah! He cranks, ah! And he finally lets him go, and the guy's like, oh, fuck my arm! And he's like, get the fuck out of here, slap nuts. And so he goes, I'm going to do the knee bar now, and he puts the guy in the knee bar. And he goes, this is how Frank Mir tapped out Brock Lesnar, slap nuts. And so he puts him in the knee bar. He's like, now tap out when it gets too bad. And he cranks. He's like, ah! And so, of course, he holds onto the knee bar. Guy's tapping out like crazy. He's like, ah! So he keeps doing this. He finally lets the guy go, and the guy's hurt. He's like, oh, shit. He puts the guy in a rear naked choke. He's like, tap out when I start to choke. He's like, ah! So he does that. What I don't get is why the third and fourth guy in the line acted so surprised when he slapped on a submission hold and then didn't let it go. Were they not watching the first two guys when he's like, tap out now, and they tap out, the guy keeps breaking the guy's arm, like, oh shit! Like the third guy gets thrown in the chokehold and he's like, I did not foresee this! So finally Joe comes out and he issues this challenge again. He's like, why don't we do this like right now? Of course, Jeff says, you know what? All right, we'll do this if you can beat my last two dudes. So Joe gets in there, and he beats the shit out of these two guys. And naturally, Jeff pussies out. I don't know. Jeff agreed to the match, and he just walked away. I guess he's a heel thing, and he's in the immortal thing, so he walks out. It makes sense. I'm not going to shit on this angle. I kind of shit on the fact they're kind of throwing MMA out, and I would really rather be watching MMA right now, but you know what? Never let it be said I did not give props to a segment that I thought was going to suck and did not. Am I not fair? Am I not kind? Okay. Jeff Hardy versus Raven with the stipulation that if Raven loses, he is fired. He's fired. There comes a point when Jeff sets up a chair in the corner. I think Raven sets up the chair and Jeff throws him into it. Ref does not give a shit. So, apparently, Jeff Hardy can use a chair whenever he wants. That's not a DQ, but Pope comes out of the casket, we gotta ring the bell. That's gotta stop. So, yeah. That's seriously one thing that needs to be straightened out in TNA. Like, right the fuck now. Is DQs. Because either they exist or they don't. And they really don't exist. Except when they do. So, this stuff happens, and it doesn't, like, I'm not, you think I'm saying this and like, oh, the ref had his back turned. No. More often than not, in fact, almost every time shit like this happens, like thumps to the eye, low blows, people pulling the ref out of the ring, spitting beer in people's faces, hairspray in the eyes, whenever all this stuff happens, ref is looking right the fuck at it. People don't tag in and out. Refs just, he goes, no. Or even better, he'll just go like 1, 2, just. It is impossible to care about these matches. You know, the outcome of these matches. When, well, really, here's what's impossible to care about is good guys and bad guys. Because they don't exist anymore. The good guys cheat, the bad guys cheat, and the referees don't give a shit who cheats. So, if you're going to do this like the Wild West, if you're going to do this like ECW had no DQs, if you're going to do it that way, just say you're doing it that way. Because that's the only way people are going to give a shit about cheating. Because they get outraged, but then they realize, why am I getting outraged? Like, nobody cares. Like, the ref doesn't care, why should I? You know, is anybody really a bad guy when cheating is allowed? So, Raven loses because Jeff used the chair on him and gets the clean pin. Okay. EV2 comes out to help Raven up, and Hulk comes out and he taunts Hulk comes out and he taunts Raven. So, he goes, you know, he's like, quote the Hulkster nevermore, brother. And so, Raven rushes forward like he's gonna fight him. He's like, I'm fucking pissed. Like, you can't, like, he's gonna kick the guy's ass. And Stevie Richards holds him back. Why? Who cares? In fact, let him go. Raven just got fired. What does he have to lose? Have him punch Hulk Hogan in the fucking ear. If ever you were not going to hold a guy back, it's when he just got fired. But they hold him back. Commercial. Tommy is still in the ring. Tommy Dreamer. For once, not weeping. He calls out Rhino. Now, if you don't know, what happened was, the last couple weeks, Rhino turned on Rob Van Dam. He gored Rob Van Dam, and he gored Tommy Dreamer, and he's been beating up EV2, and they don't know why. They all like, why, Rhino, why? Even though they pretty much telegraphed it in like the early goings of the match when they said, oh, Rhino's contract wasn't renewed. And then, sure enough, later on that match, he comes out and he like, oh my god, surprise. He gored RVD when his contract was like, what? So, Rhino said that, well, he was being laid off. And nobody cared. You know, nobody cared that he was losing his job, except Eric Bischoff. And Eric Bischoff said he'd give him his job because his only options at this point were employment or unemployment. He chose employment. And so, you know, Rhino says, he says, what choice did I have, Tommy? Tommy, I got kids. I got to take care of my kids. And he goes, you know, you're a father too. You understand this, right? So naturally, Rhino's a bad guy. Naturally. We have to boo Rhino because he made a decision to pay for his kids' braces. You know, he's got to pay for his kids' medical care. He's got to put food on the table. He's got to eat. You know, so naturally he sold out. Yeah, the booking makes no sense. And actually, I'll tell you why. Doesn't this angle sound kind of familiar? Gee, where have I heard this one before? Oh yeah, John Cena and the Nexus, where John Cena had to work for somebody he didn't want to work for because he didn't want to lose his job. He had to eat. That's why he was doing these things he didn't want to do. He was working for a bad, bad man because he wanted to keep his job. He wanted to stay in the business he loved. And of course, TNA has to rip it off by having Rhino work for Eric Bischoff. And of course, we have to boo him now. And so Tommy lays on this huge guilt trip for him selling out. Because, really, Tommy, what was your plan? He says, you know, at least all those guys who quit before you, all those guys who got fired, they went down with a fight. Tommy, what was your plan? Go home? Was that it? He says, Rhino, you sold out, man. You sold us out. So what he's saying is that Rhino should have just gone home and filed for unemployment. Gosh, Tommy, that plan sucks. Why is Tommy a face in this thing? Such bullshit. I don't know, you know what? And this isn't like, I'm not overanalyzing this. My mother could watch this and say, like, what was he supposed to do? Like, I'm not saying my mother's stupid. I'm just saying, like, this isn't like some complex narrative. This isn't like, I'm just saying, like, anybody, a kid, like a better example, a kid could watch this and be like, well, he was going to lose his job. I just stayed. You know, like, I'm just saying my mother's not a wrestling. I'm digging a hole here. So, naturally, Rhino jumps Tommy. RVD tries to make the save, but eats a gore. And I wrote, Tommy and RVD's credibility as wrestlers is just completely shot to shit by now. Because RVD is still not gotten his title match for the title he never lost. And Tommy and RVD can't beat Rhino one-on-one. It is impossible to take Tommy or RVD seriously anymore. Pirate Whore versus Mickie James. Mickie wins. This whole time, they're doing this thing where Angelina's kind of throwing temper tantrums. Like, she's getting frustrated in the ring. She's kind of doing the Christian thing, where not the wrestler Christian, where Christian used to throw temper tantrums. And so Angelina loses, and she goes backstage, and she's pissed off. She's throwing things around the dressing room, and all of a sudden Winter appears. The imaginary friend Winter. I love these scenes, because anytime you can remind me of Ultimate Warrior appearing in the mirror, that's awesome. So Winter says, you know, it's shouldn't be sad, Angelina. Shouldn't be sad, because this is all predetermined. It's fate, Angelina, because Destiny brought us together, and Destiny's going to see us through. Yes. Can't wait to see where this is going, because I promise you, we're going to see... I bet you anything, we're going to see Angelina tag teaming with Winter, but they're going to sell it like nobody can see her. Okay? Like, it's going to be Angelina and Winter, but Angelina's going to try to... Like, Winter's going to get in the ring, and they'll be like, what the fuck? There's no one there. Like, I know they're going to do this. Like, we can see her, but this is so going to happen. I promise you. So, another pretty good segment, actually. Where, and this is saying something considering I don't give a shit about Team 3D. And I say this knowing the inevitable Bubba versus Devon match is going to really suck hard. But this was a good promo. Bubba comes out and he says that he invented the 3D and nobody, fucking nobody, had kicked out of it. Which I'm pretty sure is not true. But nobody that we know of in TNA kicked out of it. Until Chris Sabin. Why? Because Devon got weak. Devon has always been weak. You will always be weaker than I, Highlander. And so, he ran down Devon and said he was always weak, and he's always been a sidekick, and he's always been the bitch who got the tables. It worked. It's building towards a match. You know, it's simple things like that. I'll give it a pass. The match itself may suck, but as long as they go out there, and there's a purpose, it builds logically to a match, then a match happens. With it. With it! It's simple. I know they're going to make this a fucking, like, flaming tables match. And actually, that might make a little bit of sense, because their whole gimmick is the tables. So, saying that, they'll probably do... Oh, what kind of match could they do that would make the least amount of sense? So, I'm tempted to say something on a pole, but that's a cheap shot. What would Russo do? Chamber of Horrors match, electric chair match, electrified cage. There we go. Electrified cage match. Tables would make too much sense. Ric Flair versus Matt Morgan, the main event of the evening. I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to be the bad guy here, but Flair needs to stop. You know, for a 300-year-old man, he moves pretty good, but he's got to stop. It's actually kind of gotten to the point where it's uncomfortable to watch. It's been that way for a while, honestly, where it used to be kind of fun and exhilarating, really, to watch this guy get in the ring and he could hang with everyone else and kind of keep up, you know, and still, the guy is still awesome. Don't get me wrong, but he shouldn't be wrestling. That guy's gonna die in the ring. He's gonna die in the ring. He's gonna be like the wrestler, you know, the movie, and it's gonna be really sad. And people are gonna say, like, why didn't we talk to him? Why didn't we stop him? The guy fucking, his head snapped off in the ring, you know, and we're gonna be really sad. It was okay. Honestly, it's about as good a match as you're gonna get out of Ric Flair and Matt Morgan. And of course, Ric Flair bled like a fucking maniac. That's what I'm talking about. Is you know, you're watching a guy who's old enough to be your grandfather, and the dude's bleeding like he's got a hatchet wound. I've seen dudes in Halloween movies that don't bleed that fucking much. That dude, every time he gets out in that ring, he just takes a razor. Honestly, I don't even know if he needs the razor blade, because he just does this. Fucker bleeds like crazy, but he gets in there and he takes this razor blade and he just goes like that. He just fucking scalps himself every fucking time. Bleeds like a faucet. I'm not trying to be funny. I know it's not funny, because it's not. You know, it's sad. And that's the thing, is he shouldn't have to do this. Man, I don't know. Basically, the ref takes a bump, Flair eats a chokeslam, because the ref's down, Fortune jumps the ring, and this is the moment Doug Williams chooses to attack Fortune, because if you don't know, they've been kind of humiliating Doug Williams by, you know, putting him in matches he's destined to lose, or pulling him out of matches, not letting him wrestle, making fun of him. He's been getting his ass kicked. And so, Doug Williams has finally turned against Fortune. And now there may actually be 4 people in Fortune. I don't know. I lost count. I lost count a long time ago, and I think so did they. But, I really don't see this face turn taking. Doug Williams isn't exactly a cheerable guy. Just because his wrestling style is very methodical, very submission-oriented, and he's kind of got... I don't see it taking, but whatever. Okay, so... the empty arena match. I did watch Reaction. God help me, I watched Reaction. I promised I would never do this. But... honestly... with Generation Me and the Motor City Machine Guns, I'll watch it. And I think they were banking on that. Because those two teams are awesome. And they put on a really good match. They put on a great, probably best match of the week. I can't fault them on that. It was a good, really good match. So, what to say about it? I've already said that the entire gimmick is pointless. What made this match really awkward is the fact that it was an empty arena match. This would have been a great match to put on pay-per-view. Would have been a good match to put on TV with a crowd. But they chose to shoot it. You know, again, if you haven't seen it, you don't know. But you know that style they do where they have backstage interview segments and they kind of go handheld where the lighting isn't that good? And the footage is grainy, and it's all it's kind of shot at awkward angles because it's a guy, like every time they get backstage, it's like some cameraman who's hiding. So there's always a guy hiding behind a stack of tables, or there's a guy hiding behind like a catwalk, and he's got his camera and he's kind of peeking through the bars or peeking through the tables, and he's getting these guys and they're talking, but we're not supposed to hear it, but we do because that's the camera style. It's kind of that reality TV type thing, and so that's all the backstage stuff. And so they shot the entire match like that. So the lighting sucked. They were in the ring for most of it, but the lighting was almost all off. It was like just the stage lights centered right on the ring. All the other lights were off. So the camera work was like handheld and shaky and all over the place, and most of the time it was dark, and so they're throwing each other into the seats, but the seats aren't lit, and so everything's out. All the lights are out, and so it was really infuriating to watch. And you're just like, get these guys in the fucking ring, you know? Get these guys on TV where people are going to watch it. So it was a good match, and it was actually really brutal to watch. A really hard-fought match. These guys went savage on each other. They fought like maniacs. Really, these guys gave it everything they had. And you can tell. I'm not saying, again, this sounds bad, like I'm disrespecting the talent, like they don't give it everything they have every time they go out there, but sometimes they don't, you know. But in this case, you could really tell. They put extra effort into this match, and it really showed. Because these guys were hitting each other hard. They were getting hit hard. They were busting out moves like crazy. They were putting really high-risk moves. I'm talking like nutso stuff. And so they put one of them, the Motor City Machine Guns put one of the Bucks through a table on the outside with the Skull and Bones move. Then they tied a guy to the ring post or the turnbuckle, and they kicked him in the face like 6 times, and they knocked him out and they left. And I guess the Machine Guns win, but that was it. That I will close by Hulk Hogan had a promo in which he was talking about why he fired Raven and why he's fired so many of the EV2 guys up to now. And this very well could have been, I don't want to say the worst, because I've seen worse promos. What's the word I'm looking for? The most uncomfortable? Damaging to the business? Out of place? Wrong-headed? Just plain stupid promo ever cut in the history of professional wrestling on television. And I've seen it posted online. I wrote it down. I watched it 3 times. And Hulk Hogan... Okay. I don't know if I can do the voice because my throat's kind of messed up, but we'll try. This is what Hulk Hogan says. "We are so real it's unbelievable. Because if you don't get over like I said, you're fired. If you don't draw a number, if you don't entertain, if you don't put asses in the seats, if you don't put coinage in the piggy bank, you're fired. No more games, no more kayfabe, brother. It's a work. I've won 34 tag team titles. Who gives a damn how many fake titles you've won? If you don't draw money, you get fired." Oh my God. Now, you may not have heard all that because I was saying in the really stupid voice, but here we go. "We're so real it's unbelievable. If you don't get over like I said, you're fired. If you don't draw a number, if you don't entertain, if you don't put asses in the seats, if you don't put coinage in the piggy bank, you're fired. No more games, no more kayfabe. It's a work. I've won 34 tag team titles. Who gives a damn how many fake titles you've won? If you don't draw money, you get fired." We're always shooting, aren't we, Hulk? How do I approach this? Okay. There's a reason kayfabe exists. Kayfabe is the general term for the illusion. We know wrestling's not real. Okay? Of course it's not. But we pretend like it is. Okay? We have to. Because otherwise, it's just a bunch of greasy men rolling around on a mat for no reason. We put on a show. We make it look like a real sporting event. And we treat it like it's a real sporting event, even though it's not, because it's theater. It's called suspension of disbelief. You suspend your disbelief. You suspend it because we practice kayfabe. And we do this thing to entertain people. So, of course, since TNA is always shooting, always real, we're always shooting. Hulk Hogan gets in front of the camera, and I don't even know where to start. Okay, here's where we start. He says, I've won 34 tag team titles. Who gives a damn how many fake titles you've won? You know who he's talking about? He's talking about the Dudleys. He's talking about guys on his own show. He's talking about the 34-time tag team champions, the Dudleys. One of the showcases of the company. And he called all of their tag team runs fake. He said, who gives a damn? Who gives a damn how many fake titles you won, Team 3D? Does Hulk Hogan have a problem with Team 3D? I wasn't aware of it till now. Apparently he does. But, if, you know, that's why Raven was fired. He didn't put coinage in the piggy bank. He didn't put asses in the seats. This isn't kayfabe anymore, Raven. If you don't get over, like I said, you're fired. I have fallen silent. I have no words. Do you have any idea what this does to the wrestling business? The morale of the locker room, how much disrespect does this show to the guys who bust their asses, you know, day in and day out to entertain these guys, who get let go because of Hulk Hogan, you know, of politics and shit like that, because of Vince Russo, these guys who are fucking idiots, who are fucking full of shit. And you get basically Hulk Hogan in front of the camera telling them that. You got, yeah. It's that really stunned me. Was you know, you're telling the audience that wrestling is fake. You're telling them that there's basically no point in watching it. You know, you're telling them that you're trying to tell them that, oh, now it's real. You know, all that shit you watched before, that's fake. Now, brother, now, kayfabe's over. It's real. Meantime, we got the Pope and Abyss in a casket match. That's real, brother. That's real. Uh-huh. You got Orlando Jordan, the motherfucker who's molesting people in the ring. That's real. No more kayfabe. This is devastating stuff, man. And I think the only reason it's not worse is because nobody fucking saw it. It's on reaction. Nobody saw it, but... Man. All they gotta do, all they ever had to do, was put on a wrestling show. Guy's got a title. Another guy wants a title. One guy's a good guy. Another guy cheats. It's not complicated. My water's gone. This isn't kayfabe, guys. It's over. Have fun. I'm gonna try to rest, get better. I'm gonna watch Impact. I'm gonna try to get back on schedule. And next time I see you on the Spoony Experiment, we're gonna do some Highlander the Source. Oh, that's gonna be bad. Till next time.